Math 3, Unit 3, Section C, which goes along with Worksheet 3. In this first one, they're asking us to write an equation. The nice thing when they say to write an equation, it means that there can be multiple answers and that you do not have to find the specific A value that would go in front. Okay, when they say write the equation, you have to find the exact equation where you have to plug in the A value. So, how do you think we could write this equation? What are things that we know about this graph? So we know our end behavior, good. So the end behavior, since it's opposites, we know that the degree will be what? It'll be odd, right? Okay. Also, do you notice how, okay, what other things do you notice?
That the right goes up, so the right is positive.
Good, so the right end behavior is positive, which means that our leading coefficient will be positive. Very good. You got it, good. Okay, what else do we see on this graph that we know?
The x-intercepts.
Good, we know the x-intercept. So what is this x-intercept right here? -3, 0. And then this one right here is 2, 0. And can we just make up any value for y on this one, our y-intercept? Yeah, and we don't even actually have to write it. Okay. What else? Like, do you see what's happening at each of the x-intercepts? So this one is passing through, and this one right here, it is bouncing. So if we were to write an equation, so I'm going to put y equals, I'm going to start with just writing A, and then my x-intercepts, how will I write that? If I have a -3 here, how would I write that? Good. X plus 3. And then this one, I'll write it as x minus 2. Good. And then if we look here, because this one's a bounce, it needs to be what kind of degree? Even degree, right? And since this one passes through, it needs to be an odd degree. So can I just leave that as a 1? Or you could put a 3 there if you wanted to. And then A we decided needs to be what? A, your leading coefficient, it needs to just be, make sure that it stays positive. So we could really put any number in here for A.
27.
Yeah, if you wanted to use 27, you could totally do that. So I'm just going to leave it as 1, like +1, and not even have a number there when we know that that means +1. But if you wanted to put 27, that would work. Okay, questions? Okay, do you guys want to give this second one a try?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you about a minute or two. And if you have an answer you want me to check, let me know.
So always looking at where the x intersect. So this one's passing through. This one's
Wait, passing through.
good. This one is passing. Is that there's also
I no longer belongs in that Thought you would fight for us.
And then also
It's actually pretty much like so negative to it. That's what kind of clear.
okay, this one looks good, but the only thing is that there's also the rows and so there's no X in front.
Are you cheating on me now? Is there someone else in the picture? That's a good thing.
And then I think so coming from the best. So this is
That's why. Because you're cheating.
So passive concept is on and advanced is on. So on the so no, you should still find out the right answer. It says that so yeah, you're probably no, you had it this time. So anytime it hits at X, that's
More than I heard of
I know I intercept because it will also be 0 because you know it's not really more than 1 intercept. So I'm counting on that.
Okay, 2 in junior here.
Yeah, I know, it's funny how it works out that way though. But yeah, so anytime that you get 0 as an X intercept, you don't have to find the line. But you could, but it's over there.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and go through this. Okay, so I noticed when I was walking around, a lot of you did not see for some reason that there was a 0 point for a 0x intercept, okay? And so if we're going through here, this first point is at -1, 0, and is this passing through or bouncing? Passing through. This point right here is at 0, 0, and is it bouncing or passing through? Okay, and then at this point it's at 3, 0, and it is bouncing. We know that our degree, is it going to be odd or even? Degree will be even, and we know that because it's going down in the same direction. It's good. And my leading coefficient will be positive or negative? Negative, because it is going down. So when we go to write this, I'm going to just start with, you could put your A or you could put a number. We'll put an A for right now. And then I would have x plus 1, and this is passing through, so an odd power. And then I can write x plus 0, and it's passing through, so this is an odd power. And then this one would be x minus 3, and I'm going to put square because it's bouncing, it's going to be an even power. So then you can kind of simplify this, and we know that x plus 0 is really just what? X. And so normally with the x's, we have those in the front with the factors at the end. And so I'm just going to put y equals, you could do -2, -1, any negative number. I'm just going to put negative x because that would be -1x, right? And then x plus 1 and x minus 3 squared. And so you should have an answer that looks something like that, but you could have a different number in front. Yes?
Is it x minus 3 because it bounces?
No. It's -3 because since this is a positive 3, when you put it into the parenthesis, it'll be a -3. But the bouncing and passing through has to do with your multiplicity.
Oh.
So your exponent.
That makes sense.
Okay?
So the Would it have to be odd or does it not matter for the negative?
Oh, the negative x has to be odd because it passes through here.
Oh,
So it's a 1. Or you could have done a 3 or whatever.
so it's technically like an x-intercept and a y-intercept?
It is your x and y. So anytime you get 0 as an x-intercept, that is also your y-intercept.
Sorry.
Okay, so you need to make sure you understand, hello, up here, polynomial vocabulary. Okay, so linear, if you have linear is a line, your degree is 1. Okay, and I'm going to write a linear equation. That would be something like y equals ax. So if you notice, the x is to the first power. So anytime you have a line, you just have x to the first power. A quadratic, the degree is 2. An equation for a quadratic would be y equals ax squared. And again, your x has a 2 power. Cubic degree would be to the third. And an equation, y equals ax to the third. And a quartic degree would be 4. And an equation we could write would be a equals ax to the 4th. And so on some of your homework tonight, they're going to basically say, this is a quartic degree. And so based on bounces and passing through and all that kind of stuff, you would be able to know the for sure exponent. Okay? Does that make sense? Because you would want to count them up. All right. Now, this says sketch the polynomial function containing the given points and write its equation. Okay, I'd actually prefer this to say write the equation, because when you're writing the equation, there's only one correct equation, which means we have to find the correct a value. Where before up here, we could choose any a value as long as it made it go in the correct direction. Okay, so let's start by marking each of these points. And they're nicely written, so they're going from left to right. So starting here at negative 5, 0. We have a point, and then we have negative 1, 0. And then it says 0, 10. That one is going to be on the y-axis. So I'm going to mark a 10, make that point. Then we have 2, 0, and then I have 4, 0. Also notice they told us this was quartic. Well, there's 4 points, and it's a quartic function. So that means every single one of those points would need to be what? Would need to be odd. They would all have to be passing through, because this would be 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees, right? Where a bounce, we could have like 2 on one of them, which would end up making it, like if you only had 3 touches, then one of them would have to bounce in order for it to make the 4th power, or 4th degree. So all of these are going to end up passing through. Okay, but we need to find our a value. Okay, so let's just write these really quick. So this was a negative 5, this is a negative 1, this is a 2, and this is a 4. We're going to write our equation, y equals a, and then what would be this first parenthesis I would write? Good. X plus 5, and then x plus 1. Good. X minus 2. X minus 4. Now, in order to find this a value, the a value on my function, I would plug in a point. And so we're going to use the y-intercept point. So we're going to use 0, 10. So this is my x value and my y value, and we're going to plug it into our equation and solve for y, or solve for a. Okay? So this would be 10 equals, 10 equals a, and then we have 0 plus 5, 0 plus 1, 0 minus 2, and 0 minus 4. Good? So then again, we have 10 equals a, and then we'd end up multiplying 5 times 1 times negative 2 times negative 4. And when you multiply that together, what do you get? Negative 40. No, negative 40 or positive 40? It's okay, positive 40a. And then in order to get a by itself, what do I do? Good. divide by 40 to both sides, and we reduce, and we get A equals what? 1/4. And so our actual equation is just going to be taking this A value and plugging it in up here. So we write that as y equals 1/4 x plus 5, x plus 1, x minus 2, x minus 4. Okay, and then we need to finish graphing. So we can see that our A value is positive. Since it's quartic, we know that it's going to be, my right end behavior is positive, and since this is a degree of 4, right? That means that both of my end behaviors will end up being the same, so they'll both be positive. And so we know that all these are passing through. So this is starting up, and then we go down, it passes through. Here it's passing through, passing through, passing through, and it all works out correctly.
So we know this is passing through because there's 4.
So because they said it was a quartic degree, if you look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 points that it's passing through. And so these have to all be passing through because they're all going to end up being odd, because when you add those up, it makes a quartic, which is 4. If you had 3 points, one of them would need to be a square to get a bounce in order to make it add to be 4.
So like when you have a even degree, it's going to, like for the particular, so these like quadratic would also be all passing through?
Not necessarily, because you could just have one x-intercept, but it could be a bounce, okay? All right, so this next one will have some bounces in it, okay? So moving to the other side. So again, it says sketch the graph and write the equation of this one says quartic function, so we know that the degree will be 4. Okay, and it says whose graph passes through 0, 3. So where is 0, 3? Good, so we're going to go up 3 and make a point. And is tangent to the x-axis. Do you guys remember what tangent means? So tangent means it touches but does not pass through. Okay, and it says it's tangent to the x-axis, okay, so that means it touches the x-axis, but it doesn't pass through the x-axis at each of these points, which means they will have to be what? Bounces, okay? And so there's a point at -4, 0, and there's a point at 2, 0. Okay, so each of these, because at both of these points it is saying that it bounces, because it's saying it touches the x-axis but it doesn't pass through, that means that these will each be bounces, which means they would each need what? An even degree.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to write out my equation. We're going to write y equals a, and so on this one we're going to have x what? X plus 4, and we're going to give that a 2 power. And then over here we're going to have x minus 2 and also a square to make an even power. And if we add these up, 2 plus 2 does make 4. Okay? And so now we need to find our a value. So in order to find our a value, we want to take our y-intercept value, or any value that's not on the x-axis. So 0, 3, and we're going to plug it into our equation. Okay, so again, this is my x and y value. So we get 3 equals a parenthesis 0 plus 4 squared, and then 0 minus 2 squared. Okay, so 0 plus 4 is what? Is 4, and then 4 squared is what? 16. And then 0 minus 2 is negative 2, but then negative 2 squared makes a positive 4. So now I have 3 equals, and 16 times 4 is, good, 64a, and then in order to get that by itself, we divide by 64. And so a equals 3 over 64, which we know is positive, right? So we're going to take that and plug that in for a over here. But knowing that this is positive and that it's an even degree, what does that tell us about our end behaviors? My right end behavior is going to be positive infinity, and my left end behavior will also be positive, because even degrees go in the same direction where odds go in the opposite direction. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and write my equation. So we have y equals 3 over 64, x plus 4 squared, and x minus 2 squared. Okay, and then let's go ahead and graph it and make sure it works out correctly. And so this one has to be positive, but it's going to bounce, and it goes up, and then here it bounces, and it goes up. And so everything ends up working out correctly for the graph. Okay, questions on any of that? All right, you guys want to give this next one a try on your own? If you need help, I can come around and help you. But again, well, maybe I should go through it actually. Does it look a little different? Do you guys get it? Okay, so cubic, first of all, the degree would be what? 3. Okay. Now, it says the polynomial such that p of negative 2 equals p of negative 3, or p of 3 equals 0. Okay, these are basically ordered pairs. So this p of negative 2, what that means is negative 2, comma 0. So if you plug in negative 2, you end up getting 0 as an answer. Okay, so p of negative 2 equals 0. Same thing on this one. So p of 3, if you plug in 3, you also get 0. This one right here where it says p of 1 equals 5, that's going to help us get our a value because it needs to be something that's not on the x-axis. And so on this one, we get 1, comma 5 is another point that will be on our graph. So let's go ahead and mark those points to start with. So we have a point at 3, 0. We have a point at negative 2, 0. And then we have a point at 1, 5. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so could I start writing my equation right now? Okay, let's go ahead and just start writing it. We have y equals a, and then we're going to have what? This is a negative 2, good, and this is a positive 3, so it's going to be x plus 2, and then we have an x. Okay, and we didn't talk about bouncing or passing through here yet, but one of these is going to have to bounce. Why is that? That, good. It does have to stay above the x-axis at some point. Also, we have a degree of 3. So that means we're gonna need a multiplicity of 2 and then a multiplicity of 1 in order to make that a degree of 3. Okay? So it says right here, p of x is below the x-axis only when x is greater than 3. So everything is above the x-axis, and then here it's below the x-axis. Do you guys agree? Okay, so I'm going to draw a line going down. Now this is an odd degree. Do we all agree? Yes? If my right end behavior is going down, that means over here is negative infinity, which means my left end behavior will have to be what? Positive. Because odd degrees means opposites. Now, in order for this to stay above the x-axis, what's going to happen at negative 2? it's going to bounce. And on this one, it's going to pass through. And so at the -2 value, what am I going to do? What am I going to put over there? A square. So at x plus 2, it's going to be squared. And do you see how this now adds to be a degree of 3? 2 plus 1 makes my degree of 3. Okay. We can finish drawing our graph now if we want to, but we still need to find our what? A value. So we can go ahead and connect these if you want to. It doesn't matter if you do the graph or the A value first. I did not draw that very good. Okay, but we're going to plug in to find our A value, and so I'm going to use that point. And remember, that's X and that's Y. And we're going to plug them in here to find A. So we get 5 equals A, parenthesis, 1 plus 2 squared times 1 minus 3. Okay, and 1 plus 2 is what? 3. And 3 squared is 9. And then 1 minus 3 is -2. So when we multiply that, we get 5 equals, and 9 times -2 is -18a, and then we divide by -18 to both sides in order to get a equals -5/18. The negative can go at the top or the bottom, it doesn't matter. So now we have this value that we can plug into this equation. And so my equation is y equals -5/18, x plus 2 squared, x minus 3. And getting a negative a value here confirms that it should be going down here as well. Do we have any questions? No?